Hello everyone! In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at adjectives. Adjectives are the words we use to describe people, places, and things, and they help us make our language much more clear and detailed.
So here's our plan for this lesson. We'll start by talking about why adjectives are so important. Then we'll get a clear definition of what an adjective is, and we'll learn about the questions they answer. After that, we'll cover a really important rule. And finally, we'll look at where they go in a sentence and then recap everything we've learned.
So to get started, let's ask a simple question. Why do adjectives even matter? An example is a great way to see the difference they really make.
All right, take a look at this first sentence. The boy is standing. Now this sentence is correct, but it doesn't really give us much information. But look at what happens when we add one little word. The tall boy is standing. Just by adding the adjective tall, we get a much clearer picture in our minds. Adjectives add detail and they make our language more specific.
Okay, so we've seen why adjectives are so useful. But what exactly is an adjective? Let's get a clear definition.
So here it is. An adjective is a word that describes, limits, or gives more information about a noun or a pronoun. Its main job is to add more detail. For example, it can tell you a quality, like a red ball, or it can limit a noun by telling you the quantity, like one ball instead of many.
And here's the most important thing to remember. An adjective has to be connected to a noun or a pronoun. It's always describing something. So in the phrase a happy child, the adjective happy is describing the noun child. Without a noun or pronoun to modify, a word just can't be an adjective.
You know, a really good trick for spotting adjectives in a sentence is to check if they answer a few specific questions about a noun. Let's go through what those questions are. All right, the first and probably the most common question an adjective answers is, what kind? This question tells us about the quality or the characteristics of a noun.
Let's see this in action. What kind of soldier? A brave soldier. What kind of boy? A quiet boy. And what kind of water? Cold water. So you see, the words brave, quiet, and cold are all adjectives because they describe the kind of noun we're talking about. Next up, adjectives can also tell us a specific number. They answer the question, how many? So for example, if you say 4 pencils, the word 4 is acting as an adjective because it tells us exactly how many pencils there are. The same goes for 1 teacher. When number words come right before a noun, they are adjectives.
The next question is how much? Now we usually use this for nouns that we can't easily count one by one. Things like water or rice. These are sometimes called uncountable nouns. For instance, you wouldn't say 2 waters, right? But you can say little water. And you can't count every single grain of rice, but you can have some rice. Words like little, some, and much are adjectives that describe the quantity of these kinds of nouns.
Adjectives are also great for pointing out a specific person or thing. They do this by answering the question, which one?
You can see how this helps us be more specific. If I say this bag, you know I'm talking about a particular bag right here. And if I say those flowers, I'm pointing to specific flowers over there. Words like this and those help us pinpoint the exact noun we're discussing.
And for our last question, adjectives can show who owns something. They answer the question, whose.
Words like my, your, his, and her are actually a special type of adjective called possessive adjectives. They tell us who something belongs to. So, whose book is it? It's my book. Whose new shoes are they? They are her new shoes.
Okay, let's move on to a really important rule about adjectives in English. It's something that makes them pretty different from nouns and verbs, and it's called the no-change rule. And the rule is actually pretty simple. Adjectives do not change. It doesn't matter if the noun is masculine or feminine, or if there's one of them or many of them. The adjective always stays in its original form. This is key. You never, ever add an S to an adjective to make it plural. Just look at this table here. We say a good boy and a good girl. See? The adjective good doesn't change for gender. And it's the same for number. It's a good boy when there's one, and good boys when there are many. The adjective good stays the same.
All right, so where do we actually put adjectives in a sentence? Let's look at the 2 most common places you'll find them.
The most common spot for an adjective is right before the noun it's describing. For example, a blue pen. But adjectives can also show up after the noun, usually following a linking verb like is or are. For instance, in the sentence, the pen is blue, you can see blue comes after the noun pen. This also works with pronouns, like in the sentence, he is tall.
Okay, we've gone through a lot of key ideas. Let's do a quick recap of the most important points from our lesson.
So, to wrap things up, let's remember these main points. First, adjectives describe nouns and pronouns. Second, their job is to add detail and make our language clearer. Third, they answer those helpful questions like what kind, how many, and whose. And finally, that really important rule, adjectives do not change their form. As you continue to read and write, try to notice the adjectives around you to see how they work.